Hello, everybody. Welcome to, what do we call this? We should have a name for this show.
We should Liz in Q, Liz in costume. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, suggest what the name of the show should be. How about that? For people who are joining that, or tell us which city you're in or country, um, and what you're doing on this fun little Sunday night. Taking it, do you usually read the news on Sundays? Like you take in everything, meet the press, like do you do the full rundown?
I do. I haven't watched TV in years, and so most of my news intake is I have to like manually go after it and find it that way.
Yeah.
But I try to stay on top. You know, the thing is because I'm so hyper focused on human rights stuff and nothing else. If it's not related to human rights, I don't know what's happening in the world. Like all the stuff
Yeah.
about Love Island and all the stuff about, like what shows. Like I know none of it, and for better or for worse, I know none of it. You could ask me for $1 million, name one contestant
Who
on the
won
show.
Love Island? Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's a good thing. I think I can't do one without the other. I wouldn't be able to just watch Love Island and then tune out completely. I also don't think I could read about what Pete Hegseth did today if I didn't know that I could dissociate with Love Island, like a Love Island reunion, which is tomorrow, if anyone's watching.
But see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's so natural, and you're so like organically good at it. I would be like such a forced, like round peg square hole type thing. Whatever the square peg round hole thing. But anyways, you do you. You know your thing. You do you. You're good at it.
I think reality show is anthropology. I think reality TV is just like society. And you're just sort of watching people in, I love behavioral science. I love studies, and it's really rare that you can put human beings and do a real social experiment with people, because usually it's unethical and you can't really examine them in the way that you can sort of take out different components, like with lab rats and with, that we do with animals, which some people might argue is also inhumane. But I think that's the element that I like about reality TV. It is kind of experiment. Like you put a bunch of people on an island and you cut them off entirely from the rest of society, and then you kind of fuck with them, and then you see what happens.
No, that part. I mean, the fascination I have with that is I agree with you, and a lot of the studies I've done in history that have kind of been dark. Like,
Yeah,
what's that study where they had people just dress up like ordinary schmucks, dress up in lab coats, and
yeah,
they'd pull somebody in and be like, press this button, and it shocks somebody else,
yeah.
and like the number of people who were willing to shock somebody else. And it wasn't shocking anybody. It was just somebody screaming like they were being shocked. And they're like saying,
Right.
you're killing me. But the horrifying result was the number of people who were willing to just press a
Yeah,
button to shock someone to death
yeah.
was like astronomically high. And it was
Uh-huh.
because, well, you were wearing a lab coat. You looked like you were an
Yep.
authority and you knew what you're talking about. It's kind of
Yep.
frightening.
It is. And then it's such a great example, or a great way to lead into all of the fun topics we have tonight of what people are willing to do if someone tells them to do it. And sort of that aspect of, yeah, the Milgram experiment. Roberta, you got it. Um, Yeah, so there's a lot. We were going back and forth about what we would be talking about, and Kasim sent me a really funny. Oh, it's not funny. It was an MSNBC clip, but I thought that there was something really funny in it, where there's a center right. There's a center left think tank that has come up with a list of words that the left needs to stop using. And one of the words is like the unhoused. Another word is LGBTQ. And then there's even like holding space, which I thought that's when I just burst out laughing. I was like, okay, so we're not
Crazy. This is crazy. It's so bad. You're talking about the David Hogg clip, right?
Yeah,
Um, and I was talking to him about this earlier as well, that it's insane that a decade after Trump, the best argument establishment Democrats have is vote for us. We're not Trump. As if that's
yeah.
working. Like it's not working. Give me something tangible besides
Mhm.
at least I'm not a fascist. Like that's not a very high bar
Yeah,
to cross over. And that
yeah.
I don't know. Are they a center left think tank? I feel like that's too generous either. I feel like as a Heritage Foundation, like one of those Scooby Doo cartoons, like who's under this mask, and you pull it open. Like who else is gonna say that kind of nonsense? It's absurd. All you can do is laugh at it.
Yeah. And like, I think it's Mark Maron that's been going around. He has a comedy special and he's been going around being like, we literally lost. But he actually takes he's like, cancel culture isn't real. Like, you're not getting canceled and there's no law, right, telling comedians what they can or cannot say. It's just that if people aren't laughing at your jokes and they don't like it, then like that's what's going on. But he does say like, we basically lost because we're annoying. Like that's our like biggest fault, I guess. Like if you listen to what the Betasphere and I guess Joe Rogan and some of these extremely unfortunately influential voices are saying, it does seem like just being annoying. Like again, saying holding space. Is that hurting anybody? Like maybe it's annoying, but
Yeah,
I sort of can't believe we're there where we have to like talk about the intricacies of the words we're using.
it's nuts.
And and on that same, segment, they then are like, why hasn't Hakeem Jeffries endorsed Zoran Mandami, at this point, right? That there are things that are going really well for Democrats that they, don't seem to be realizing is good for them. Did you see the scavenger hunt that he did in New York City?
I did. That's hilarious. And he had
It's
a bag of
incredible.
chips in the video, like all that in a bag of chips. That's like, it's so subtle. It's so good
Yeah.
that that was excellent. I saw the other interview. I can't remember what interview it was, but they asked like, what's like a notable thing that happened to you recently? And he said, I spoke to an elderly gentleman who called me to tell me I ran a really good race and to keep fighting. And yeah, his name was Andrew Cuomo. I'm like,
Oh my God.
it was so good. It was so good. I thought he was talking about like some random like constituent. I think this is Andrew Cuomo. He's the guy's a natural. He's like he was made for this
Oh
moment.
my God.
And I don't understand why establishment Dems aren't like taking what he has and trying to bottle it up and keep
Literally.
moving on it. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean. Like
I do.
he's doing it, and I don't know why they're so afraid. I mean, well, what
Yeah.
David Hawk said on the interview, and I think he's right. It's that
Yeah.
they're so funded by these APAC lobbies and these corporate lobbies that they're afraid of losing the support of these, bizarre corrupt lobbies and these corporations, not realizing that they're not the ones voting. It's the voters who are voting.
Hmm.
And if you just come to your senses and support someone like Zoran, who's doing everything that you claim to stand for, then we will win every single freaking election without.
Forever. Yeah. And we'll do fun scavenger hunts. That's politics. Like 10,000 people, right? I think that thousands of people showing up to a scavenger hunt on a Sunday for a political candidate, right? Like that politics can be fun. Politics can be something that people want to participate in. And we are in this attention economy. Things are moving so fast, and you're old when you're saying that, right? But I do think that even in the last 5 years, what makes a political candidate successful is changing, every 6 months. And one of the things that Zoran has done so well is capture attention. And to pivot into another Democrat, the way that Gavin Newsom has been capturing attention, whether you think it's good or bad that he's not punching up or he's not. I mean, I think he is punching up, actually. I don't know if I brought this up. Someone brought this up on a live or if it was in person, but Trump punches down with his all cap stuff, right? He's sort of using that to punch down on, immigrant communities, on women, on disabled people. And what Gavin Newsom is doing is using that same strategy, but punching up, right? Elevating those communities and elevating people and democracy. And so I don't know. How do you feel about that strategy from
I,
Democrats?
look, I because he's creating awareness. They've got it on the ballot, so I'll give him credit for that. I think my whole thing is if all he did was just put up tweets in caps and
Yeah.
mock Trump, I would not be a heavy camper because I think that
Hmm.
that cutesy stuff would have been great 10 years ago, 8 years ago, but it's not going to work now. I think the fact that he's doing that and also getting the redistricting on the ballot is what you need. You need both. Like you want both. You want someone who can draw a crowd, get the attention, be dynamic, be not reactive, but be proactive in his conversations, and then actually do something substantive as well. And I think so often what happens with the Democratic Party establishment is they'll make these, Cory Booker giving a 25-hour,
Yeah.
record-breaking speech. about the importance of democracy and humanity and compassion and justice and speaking up for the little guy and for the silenced voices. And then the next day, voting to send a bajillion more in bombs to Netanyahu to commit genocide. Like, it's just so ridiculous. And so I think I, I'm not the biggest Newsom fangirl. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I ever will be. But what I will say is that his ability to command an audience right now and then actually get this on the ballot to
Yeah.
vote to redistrict California, I think that's what we need. And frankly, what I
Yeah.
would love to see, I can't remember who said this. Definitely, I can't take credit for it. I saw a woman on TikTok talk about this. So if somebody knows, again, I'm bad with names, but she's like, how great would it be if every Democratic governor that could redistrict held a joint press conference together and say, here are how many
Yeah.
seats we are going to add to the blue, through this redistricting. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't like gerrymandering, well, guess what? Under Joe Biden, we voted unanimously to ban gerrymandering. We voted
Mm-hmm.
unanimously to get corporate money out of politics.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans voted unanimously to block it. And now they're pissed off that we're fighting with the same lack of a rule book that they're fighting with. That's
Mm-hmm.
their damn problem, but we are going to move forward. We're not going to unilaterally disarm. If they did that as Democrats standing together, it would fire up the base. And I promise you that the stupid comments about trans people, and they are stupid comments, the stupid comments about Israel Palestine, and they are stupid comments, those I don't want to say people would ignore them, but people would recognize that now we actually have a path towards electing Democrats and then passing meaningful protections for trans people, passing
Mm-hmm.
meaningful policy changes for Palestine to end this genocide. And I'm not seeing that happen right now. That's what I want to see, a mass movement, the way we saw out of Texas Democrats.
Yeah, and just an emphasis on strategy, like an
Yeah,
emphasis on winning. Unfortunately, the other side has put a huge emphasis on it to the point where they lie and cheat to win.
yeah,
And so I think it comes back to the conversation around how the Democrats are so squeamish and around assembling and sort of uniting behind Zoran, which is like they're afraid. Sure, I think some of them it's a money thing, and I'm being naive about it, but I think it's a thing, especially on the left right now. You can call it purity culture. There's different names for it, but I think there's a real fear of dissenting. And having an opinion that might make certain people upset. And I don't know, even on the Gavin Newsom front, I made a video about it on Saturday because and we've talked about this sort of privately, just the sort of online leftist,
yeah,
faction of the internet that you won't see them at a food drive. You're not going to see them. You're not going to see them at the charity run, right? Like they're not necessarily involved in politics, but they have a lot of things to say about it. They have a lot of things. They're not trying to solve the problem, but they know exactly what's wrong with the way that you're trying to solve the problem.
yeah.
And I think that they're an extremely loud, outsized, sort of minority, but it affects the culture. And I'll say it. I've even posting about Gavin Newsom. I was like, I'm probably gonna. People are gonna, yeah, call me transphobic or call me all kinds of names for doing it. And again, not to make myself the center of it, but like I was like, oh wow, like if it's hard for me, I'm sure it's hard for a lot of people. And yeah, that's not a winning. That's not a winning team. You know what I
Like,
mean? Like if we're all
no,
arguing at each other instead of focusing on how we're fighting the other side.
Well said, and I'll echo that. I mean, I saw people trying to attack you for your commentary on Palestine that it wasn't enough. And like the point I always make is, people are attacking me. Just today, I got a nasty attack that I just started speaking up for Palestine. I'm like, I can show you written receipts
Yeah.
from the 2000 before 2010, like from the O's, right, from the
Yeah.
aughts, where I was speaking up, and I actually found a Facebook post from like 2011 or 12 where I'm like, guys, I think this is a genocide, what's happening right now, because it's
Mm,
targeted, it's intentional. And so it's like, I don't know what to tell these people who think that just because you saw a post 20
yeah.
minutes ago, suddenly your world started 20 minutes ago. Right? Like, my response to them is, you know what? Tell you what, you're right. Why don't you show me what you've done to lead by
Yeah.
example, and then I'll follow your lead. And then suddenly, well, no, 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 I'm not a public figure. Okay, then maybe
Yeah.
just relax
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stop being so critical. If you don't want to be a public figure, then you don't get to act like one in that space and then not get the criticism for it. Because if you do want to be a public figure, then you're going to get the criticism. And so I don't I don't let those folks distract me because in my view, there are so many more people who are willing to not only trust, but then also say, "Hey, I'm going to follow your lead. Let's get to work." And then I think it's up to you and me, like not
Mhm.
you and me literally, but like the people in general who are out there to lead by example and do the work. And that's I
Yeah.
think what I'm kind of trying to do. I did want to ask you, Liz. I mean, in terms of um, what we're seeing happen with like the militarization, you're in LA, you had the National Guard there for a while, and now,
Mhm.
from what I understand, they've kind of just dissipated like a morning dew
Yeah.
that goes away eventually. Although it might be too nice of a descriptor. Now they're in DC, and my friends in DC are telling me that people are not going to restaurants, that Uber drivers aren't picking up people. They don't want to go on
Yeah.
TV because they don't want to get harassed. And now this, orange fascist has announced that it's going to be coming to Chicago. And look, um, someone should tell them like Chicago doesn't deal with fascists very well. We
Yeah.
drove out the KKK in 1998. We stopped a Trump rally in 2016. They're not going to be happy
Mm.
here in Chicago.
Yeah.
What's your take on this? Like, what's happening? What's the end game here?
Yeah, I think I caught your live with Jess Craven about sort of the feeling in LA, and I sort of agree with her that you don't really see it, right? They sort of make a big show out of it, and a couple weeks ago when they took over that park, in sort of a downtown area
Yeah.
of LA, was this very big, yeah, like look at our big guns, this big show, this very like hyper masculine show of force. And actually, it was interesting. I'm curious on your take on that. I don't know. I get worried about drawing too much attention to how big their military presence is, because I wonder if for people on the right who are maybe persuadable, it makes them appear stronger than they are, right? Like that's my often what and I know you think about this deeply. I know many people who are on this live think about it too. It's like, are we playing into the fact that look at Trump being this big, sort of imposing, dictator is like a positive for them, right? And I think it's true in LA. There's not that you don't feel the military presence. You feel ICE. And I go to this breakfast place. I know some of the waiters, and a lot of them are Latino, and I can sense their fear. I mean, they're afraid to show up to work. And I was in Florida actually a couple weeks ago, and I was in an Uber, and I asked her, I was like, it's really unusually quiet. And he was like, yeah, because a lot of the workers are too afraid to go work. A lot of people are, a lot of the immigrant population are afraid to go out of their houses. And that, so it's real, it is real. And then you also don't want to, I don't know, how do you think about how to talk about it in a way that doesn't help the regime, sort of wield more power than they already have.
I'm reading the comments, Liz, and folks. I mean, Jeannie just says that Trump wants to fight. No one wants to light the match. We're all clinging to the LAW, the elections with hope. Laura added really thoughtfully, "This is what they want. For you to get used to it, and then they can swiftly enact martial law." I mean, I think they're right. I think he wants a fight. I think he wants a
Yeah.
violent outburst. And similar to what you're sharing in your experience and speaking to these restaurants, I'm getting calls from parents here in the Chicagoland area, teachers saying, "Hey, parents are calling me. They don't want to send their kids to school." And these are,
Mm.
in some cases, they're immigrants who are waiting for status. In some cases, they're U.S. citizens
Yeah.
saying, "We're seeing how these fascists are like putting on a
Mhm.
face mask and trying to break into these schools and trying
Mhm.
to, use these ICE detainers." And by the way, I've got a piece coming out about this soon. But ICE detainers are not legal documents. They have as
Yeah.
much authority as my 9-year-old scribbling on a napkin that I have the right to have ice cream for breakfast. Like there's no validity to them whatsoever. And so unless they have a warrant signed by a judge,
Mhm.
there's nothing that they can do. And
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that we're seeing some agencies, even some courtrooms, start to honor these ICE detainers when in reality, Liz, that they're they're trash and that's where
Yeah.
they belong. Um, so yes, I think I'm seeing, not I think, I know I'm seeing that fear. I also agree with you that there's a very Hunger Games-esque propaganda
Mm,
campaign style here, right? They want to make themselves feel bigger and seem bigger than they actually are. I think
yeah.
one post about LA that went viral that I'm sure you saw, where it had like the whole map of LA, and it had the tiny little spot where all these so-called rioting was happening, and you're like, oh wait, we thought this was like, Rodney King LA fires wide thing, but it's
Mm-mm.
actually like a block and a half maybe, and that's it. And I think that's what they're going to keep trying to do, trying to
Yeah.
create ruckus and make it bigger. But that's really where the folks who are able to, and I'm talking to citizens out there specifically. I don't want people on green card. I don't want people who are undocumented. I don't want people who are on an H-1B visa. I'm talking to citizens out, the fellow U.S. citizens out there, particularly those with the complexion for protection, if you know what I mean, to be
Mm-hmm.
out there documenting this.
Yeah.
If you're a veteran, if you are active duty and you're a conscientious objector, us
Mm-hmm.
citizens need to be the ones leading the way to document this because
Yeah.
this is not something that's going to be exclusive to undocumented immigrants. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
to every single person. And then once they get done filling up these concentration camps with immigrants and undocumented people, guess what? They're going to fill them up with dissenters and anyone who opposed the regime. I mean, for God's sake, Trump just raided John Bolton, his former
Yeah.
national policy advisor, raided his house. And all I could think of is, I never thought the leopards would eat my face, said the
Yeah.
woman who
Yeah.
voted for the
Yeah.
leopard eating faces party. So,
Mm-hmm.
this is really where people are asking, what can we be doing
Mm-hmm.
documenting this, being public,
Yeah.
exposing the reality of what's happening here. And
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I think a similar goes to men. I'm talking to fellow men out there. Like a lot of the policies that they're passing are attacks on women's health and women's reproductive rights and justice. Men need to do more to speak up and to be adamant in this space. And if that means you're helping women, transport from one place to another in a safe way, at least those in your family and your circle of friends, you should be there. And if they're not asking you, you should ask yourself why, because there's a reason why women are so hesitant to trust. So let me kind of throw it back to you.
Mm-hmm.
What do men need to be doing a better job of in these times to ensure we're playing our rightful responsibility to protect the basic rights of all people, certainly for women?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot about masculinity, as you know, um, a little too much sometimes, probably. But I think in general, I see it as such an opportunity. Like I think about it in terms of intimate relationships, right? Between men and women. There's a saying that's like, treat her like a queen and you'll feel like a king, right? That the way to feel amazing and as a woman, for example, or even as a, who has the complexion for protection, I am on a green card, but I appear to be a citizen for, I present that way. I'm sure. And, it makes me feel better, right? To be able to exercise that privilege as opposed to feel shame around it or dissociate from it. Like, I do think we have to do a better job of instructing people and I think particularly men about the ways that actually standing up for women and standing up in this moment makes you more of a man, and how to express your masculinity more. I think that a lot of men, good men, whatever sort of that means, or men who've thought about feminism and probably who follow your amazing Substack, are already thinking about these things. But I think, and please sound off in the comments on this if I'm wrong, but I think that the message has been to men to feel bad about their masculinity, right? To feel bad about the fact that they're men, to feel bad about the privilege that they have. And I always go, no, please, like use it, really channel it into, our communities and into supporting women. And I think you'll actually, get a sense of purpose from that, which I know a lot of men don't, are sort of lacking right now. A lot of us are sort of dissociated. I'll bring up a small anecdote because I think it does relate to this. My niece is starting, nieces, I don't know if anyone's an aunt or uncle, but it's like 1 minute they're 6 months old and then they're going off to, 7th grade and she's like, a full teenager. So she's starting junior high, and they have a eye contact campaign. And I was like asking my sister, I was like, wait, what's that? What's an eye contact campaign? And my sister is a teacher. And she goes, oh, it's to encourage kids to make eye contact with each other, with teachers. And I just, I was so befuddled. And my sister was like, yeah, I know it's kind of crazy, but it's where we're at. It's just, we're at a place where, yeah, we don't make eye contact as much. We don't talk to each other as much. We don't feel, concerned with our communities, with our neighbors in the ways that we sort of used to. And so I always see this sort of this call to men as an opportunity to connect, as an opportunity to uplift, not just the women in your life and the women, around you, but yourself, as a man. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I just see it as, men are, there's so many stories about men are lonely and men are lost and men don't have a sense of purpose. And here's this thing you can do.
Yeah.
Women need you, you are so needed. And I think everyone likes to feel needed. And I think men particularly need a role, or need a little bit more of, not instruction, but modeling, and particularly from other men. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, look, and this is kind of what I try to teach my sons as well,
Yeah.
that your responsibility is to ensure that people know that they can trust you and that they can feel safe around you. And you do that not with your words, but with your actions. And like I'll tell
Mm,
my 16-year-old, when all your friends are checking out or gawking after, or the male gaze after women, and you're observing a sense of modesty and a sense of respect, people notice that, and they know that
mhm.
that's someone that they can trust and they can rely on. When people are making misogynistic jokes, or sexual jokes about girls in high school, and you're not, it's those little things that go a long way towards
Yeah.
telling people that you can be trusted and that you should be trusted. And then when you follow it up with actions and exemplify that in ways of doing people favors without asking for anything in return, or doing something and to support someone because it's the right thing to do, not because you're looking for a pat on the back. It's these little subtle things. You don't gotta literally take out your sword and go slay a dragon somewhere, right? I mean, just it. This is actually what the word jihad means, like this struggle against
Mm,
evil and injustice and misogyny and bigotry and anti, like all these isms, right?
yeah.
That they're conquering those, and I think that's really where I try to, whenever I mentor young men or young boys in particular, that's what I try to impress upon them, that no one's
Yeah.
asking you to, the world's on fire. No one's asking you to put out the whole fire, but just in your little circle, put out that fire
Mm,
and watch it grow and develop, from that standpoint as well. Wahida Muhammad made a comment. And it's a really thoughtful comment. You are not a white chauvinist if you use your historical privilege to fight for the equality of
yes.
others, right?
Yeah.
That's really it. And I think there's a difference between using your privilege to fight for others versus kind of like usurping platforms for others
Yeah.
as well. And
Yeah.
and this is why I love to do these lives. I love to have guest posts, right? And like you do the same thing too. You do these lives, you have guest posts. Like this is how we use our respective platforms that
Yeah.
we've worked very hard to build
Hmm.
to elevate and uplift other voices. I mean, I just think that's, I think, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from my late father, who passed a few months ago, was that you should just be so focused on protecting the rights and needs of others that it doesn't matter how they treat you. If you do it effectively, people themselves will start to treat you better. And like, there's a fine line between that and being a martyr. So I get
Right.
that. But I've just found I'm much happier when I'm just focused on what can I do to make life
Yeah.
for those around me easier. And I fail a lot. I'm terrible at it. I'm horrible at it. I get that. But I feel like it's just easier on me when that's what I'm focused on, as opposed to trying to figure out, how do I make sure I get mine? That transactional stuff doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and it makes you feel terrible, right? Like it's a volunteering is like a literal they sort of call it, oh God, I'm getting an alert. National Guard members in DC now carrying weapons. I feel like they were already doing that, right?
Uh,
Was that new?
I just like
Anyway.
bigger weapons. Like I don't understand.
Yeah,
What are the
it's
weapons you need?
if someone wants to look it up, or not. But can I turn it back on, turn the question back on you? You know, I think we've seen, or this has probably been in my feed, and maybe it's been in yours too, of just like Karens sort of pushing back at ICE, and some people on threads and Twitter and whatnot being like, finally, like, speak to the manager kind of privilege and audacity being used for good. And I thought that was like a really good example of, again, sort of not celebrating privilege, but a good use of it.
Leaning in.
And obviously, as a white woman, your safety is going to be prioritized, by the state and often by just society in general. And so there are things that you can do with your body, that again, you're lucky to be able to do with your body. It's that, again, we say it's a privilege, seeing your privilege as almost like a luxury in terms of what you can do in your community. And so, yeah, I've enjoyed a lot of those videos, and I think it's worth pointing out, right? I think there's so much to point to that's not going well, and that's terrifying. But then, yeah, in our feeds, we'll also see just like I know in DC, there was a huge group of I mean, it seemed pretty multi ethnic and generational of just groups of people, sort of shaming ICE out of the streets, and it is really powerful. Like people. I think that's extraordinary. We have to mention that. But so my question is, what would you like white people to be doing more?
I mean,
Right
that's
now.
a great example, Liz. That's a great example. One of my good friends, former Congresswoman Marie Newman, shared how she was driving by a local coffee shop that she frequents often, and she knows a lot of Latinos work there. And she saw ICE show up, so she went up and just confronted them and just let them know, "Hey, I'm here. I'm going to be questioning everything that you're doing." There's a woman in California who's following around ICE and announcing everywhere that they go that ICE is here. And like,
Yeah, I saw that.
you got the free time and privilege. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
that really is what needs to happen. James Weldon talked about this 50 years ago when he said, we can't attack them with guns. They have more guns than us. We can't attack them with force. They have more force than us. We need to find new ways. The old ways aren't going to work anymore. We need to find new ways to be disruptive. We have to disrupt the status quo in new ways. And we have to think of what those new ways are. And to your really thoughtful point, Liz, one of those new ways are white women using their white female privilege and disrupting the status quo, getting in front of ICE and forcing ICE to make a decision. And look, I want no one to get hurt. I want no one to be martyred. I want no one to have to suffer the pains and injuries for the cause. What I will say is that when it comes to somebody confronting ICE, a white woman or a white man confronting ICE is going to be far more effective than an undocumented immigrant or a green holder. I mean, that's just a reality of it. And so the question really is, someone made this comment to me during the election last cycle when they talked about how white liberals were freaking out that Trump might win again and how we'll be back into the dark ages. And as an African American, and he said to me, obviously Trump is a fascist. I don't want him to win. But the fear that these white liberals are expressing to me right now, I hope they understand this is what Black and brown people have felt for a long time. And he goes, for Black people in particular, when did we achieve equality? We didn't get reparations. We didn't get restitution. The Civil Rights Acts are being gutted away. Our wealth is 1% of white people right now. A Black college graduate makes less than a white high school dropout right now. Like, what are you talking about? This is what we've. So he goes, I hope Trump loses, but if this is what it takes for them to understand what we've been experiencing, then that's unfortunately what needs to happen. Not because he wanted it to happen, but he's afraid that hopefully that wakes them up. And I think we are all experiencing that right now. And I want to emphasize that this is not somebody saying, haha, you ordered. It's somebody saying, let's find ways to recognize that none of us are free until all of us are free. I think that's an important point. So finding ways to disrupt the system, get in good trouble the way John Lewis talked about, I think is a really good example. And the reason why I think I'm emphasizing on white women is because 3 elections in a row, 55% of white women voted for Trump. The racism wasn't a deal breaker. The sexually assaulting 28 women wasn't a deal breaker. The trying to overthrow the government wasn't a deal breaker. The mocking disabled people wasn't a deal breaker. Like what are you doing? Like why is this still happening? The overturning of Roe wasn't a deal breaker, right? Which is insane to me because
Mhm.
something like 80% of women protect reproductive health access, but somehow
Yeah.
associating with white supremacy was still a better deal than recognizing that this is going to devastate women. And so I think this is
Oh,
really an opportunity. And I will say this, I'm sorry, it's a longer answer than I intended to
no,
give.
no, please. It's
But,
great.
but we talk
Preach.
about this, like I'm seeing people come to the fore now and be like, okay, I was wrong, I was mistaken. But I'm afraid of speaking up because I'm gonna get yelled at or I'm gonna, get screamed at. And my
Yeah.
point to them always is there's three things you need to remember. One, welcome to the right side of history, right? It's Dr. King said it's never the wrong time to do what's right, and it's always the right time to do
Mhm.
what's right, and you're doing that. So welcome to the right side. Two, people might be very upset with you, and they will yell and scream at you. They are entitled to their anger, and you have
Mm,
to afford them that. You can't tell them, "Hey, I'm here now. Don't yell at me." Right? That's
mhm,
part of the process because the pain that people have felt is far greater than the discomfort you're feeling right now. And
mm,
three, the only way is through. The only way is through. Like you just have to keep pushing through and
yeah,
and know that you're going to build that trust over time. And you build that trust by saying, "Hey, I'm going to own my mistakes and I mess up. I want to work." And then there's
mhm,
some amazing leaders that are doing the work. Some amazing Black women doing the work. Some amazing Latinos doing the work. Some amazing women doing the work. Amazing
mhm,
marginalized communities doing the work. Follow their lead with supporting their content, supporting their voice, donating to their causes, to their organizations. This is how you actually lead. It's not by saying, "Okay, now I'm here. Give me the platform and I'll show you how it's done." No, you get behind
mhm,
folks who have been doing the work. And so if you're
mhm,
thinking about stepping out of the shadows and saying, "I want to be on the right side of history," don't hesitate. Take your lumps. You have to go through them. I promise you that they're not worse than what people have already suffered through. And then lead by example with your time and your resources and your finances. And I promise you, you'll feel better about it because the second you realize that being in your comfort zone is more dangerous than being out of your comfort zone, that's when
mm.
change is going to start.
We
That
just
was
went
a
to
quick.
church. It is Sunday.
It is Sunday.
Sunday night church. That was incredible. I think that's a really important point that I know I've been thinking a lot about as I am mocking Andrew Schultz for having a come to Jesus moment, 7 months too late of like,
Dude,
I guess Donald Trump is a liar.
keep
Oh, oh.
mocking him though. He's a different conversation. Like you have a
Oh, wait,
massive platform.
tell me more about that. So you put people who have access to knowledge and influence and
Absolutely.
power.
Absolutely. I'm
That
sorry.
the
I cut you off rudely, but
No, 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 no. No, I'm curious because then I go, I fucking hate you and you're a fucking idiot and you just didn't want to vote for Kamala Harris because she's a woman. Like I just, I see through it. And then I go, wait, am I doing the thing that is sort of what David Hogg was talking about on that MSNBC segment and what we've been talking about on the left, which is we have to be a big tent, right? We have to welcome people onto our sides. Like I think a lot about how the right actually embodies a lot of the values that we preach. Like we will talk about things really well and our policy will reflect it. Like I'm not
yeah,
saying it's just a talk. I think our
yeah,
action also reflects it. But the way that we go about it often is actually in contradiction with the very, sort of values that we're, sort of proclaiming are so central to our movement. And I think one of those characteristics is definitely tolerance, right?
yeah.
So, like the left can be very intolerant of each other, and it sort of comes back to Gavin Newsom, where it comes back to Zohran Mandami, like that. Oh, you have a different opinion on a certain issue. I can't be affiliated with you. I can't come to I can't even come sort of close to you. That's so weird to me. But I think one of them is sort of the idea of, I don't know if it's redemption or maybe it is tolerance too. But you go to an anti-abortion conference, for example, which I've been to many, and very often, yes, there's the preacher, there's the people who have been part of this anti-choice movement for decades, but very often there's a woman that's had literally like 14 abortions. I'm not even fucking kidding. Like it'll be like an outrageous, not outrageous, but sort of not even like, oh, I had one and I came to. There'll be women who will
Yeah,
say
I got
I
you.
had 4 abortions. I was on the wrong side of history. And now I'm, you know, I've sort of come to the light, and I'm here, and they get up for her, they clap,
Yeah.
they'll be nicer to her
Yeah.
than they are to sort of their own people. It's sort of a, you know, in 12-step programs, the newcomers are very valued, right?
Yeah.
There's a portion of the meeting that's just for newcomers. There's, you know, there's a lot of sort of resources to try and sort of welcome people.
Yeah.
And I think we're really missing that. And so to come back to your comment, after I was talking shit about Andrew Tate, another Andrew, that's annoying. When I was talking shit about Andrew Schultz, I was like, am I doing the thing that I hate that we do? And that's actually, you know, is this why we lost? You know? So
Yeah.
what do you think?
A lot of really thoughtful points. Let me break it down into like three categories. One, I distinguish between like an ordinary person who might have been misled or who might have
Yeah.
just not done the due diligence versus someone like Andrew Schultz, who's, you know, all the money and the resources in the world. I mean, the guy's doing promo videos with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and he's on the Tonight Show and all this stuff, right? There's two very different worlds, right? Because like in the person who's marginalized who may not have the resources, you
Yeah.
can make the argument that maybe they just didn't have access to the information. But when you have all the wealth and privilege and power, and you still actively choose to support a fascist, having him on your show, giving him
I
softball
mean,
questions, you're an enabler at that point.
yeah.
And you know, DL Hughley said this at the DNC. He got, you know, when he apologized for spreading misinformation about Kamala Harris, he goes, the apology should be as public as the criticism.
Mm,
And you know, he went on a very public tour saying, "Look,
mm,
I screwed up. This is the way it actually
oh,
should be." And I give him credit for that. So I think what I want to see out of Schultz is how much money are you donating now to Democratic causes? How much money are you
right.
donating to reproductive health centers, abortion clinics, where women are now, you know, fighting for their lives
Dying. Yeah.
literally? And like, great, you went on a little podcast and said, "Oop, I'm sorry, I was too dumb to realize what was happening." Okay, great. Now let's
Mm,
actually put some evidence behind it, right? It's you can crumple up a piece of paper
mm,
and spread it back out, but it's still crumpled. Like you still need to do some work to fix that. You can take a plate, throw it at the ground, have it smash, and say, "Oops, I'm sorry." Well, I
mm,
still have a plate. Like, give me a new goddamn plate, and then we can talk.
right.
That's kind
Right.
of the first thing. That's why I make distinction. Two, I don't actually think. I mean, I'm seeing some of the comments that the left is far more intolerant than the right. I don't actually think that's true, and here's
Okay.
why. Because to be a conservative, what you're basically saying in many respects is it's much easier to be a conservative than to be a liberal or to be a progressive. Because when you're talking about a progressive, you're talking about expanding rights. You're talking about
Mhm,
expanding access to the human experience. To be a conservative is to say, you know what? I'm going to stop fighting to expand rights. I'm going to be content just being in my little circle here, in my little insular circle here. And that's what people celebrate because now you're not disrupting the status quo. You stopped disrupting the status quo.
mm,
And no conservative ever had their rights taken away because we expanded abortion access. No
yeah.
conservative ever had their rights taken away because we made immigration better. No conservative ever had their welfare taken away because Black people also got access to welfare. And so when someone says, I've seen the light and I'm going to come back to be a conservative, what they're actually saying is, I will no longer challenge you to think of somebody else besides yourself. And
Mm,
that's why it's much easier to accept it.
mhm,
Versus on the
mhm.
progressive side, if
Right.
somebody says
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
okay, I know I was a jerk in the past and thought that, you know, women shouldn't have the right to vote, but now I've decided to err my ways. Some people are going to be like, all right, dude, you caused some serious damage. You got to undo that damage as well. And I think they're perfectly justified in saying that. I
Mhm.
absolutely agree. There's some jerks on the left. I've experienced them all the time who will never forgive. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
fine, that's your thing. But I always like to frame it on this really important nuance that it's not that the left is more intolerant. I really don't think that's true. I think
Mm,
we're looking at it from two different angles. And one angle is you agree on the conservative side, you've agreed to stop disrupting the status quo, and that makes people happy. On the left side, you've agreed to start disrupting the status quo, and people are going to
mm,
be skeptical because you spent all this time
yeah.
being complicit and complacent and they want to see action before they believe your words.
Yeah. Which is, yeah, that's a really good point. I like hadn't thought that just adds more nuance to
Yeah.
that, you know, sort of our argument. And I think is so true. You know, I was just with a friend who lives in Nashville, and she was telling me, yeah, just you know, we sort of agree on big things, but definitely I think politically there's some differences, and I was empathizing, you know, with
Yeah.
and with the fact that she brought up that she couldn't sort of express any kind of different, or she felt that she couldn't express a difference of opinion, you know, in a place like LA in the way that she can, you know, in sort of Tennessee. And so I'll just go, I don't know, when I'm in that conversation, I'm like, oh man, that sucks. Like you know, and so I'll have empathy, but then, yeah, I'm just, then I have empathy for myself and all of us who just have felt so let down
Yeah.
and
I agree.
so disappointed. And it's just, you know, what you're describing with Andrew Schultz, and I think applies to a lot of people, unfortunately, I think on the right, and particularly I think these sort of very influential people on the right who are either podcast hosts or like tech company, you know, CEOs or founders, who have gone sort of totally right-wing masculinity on us, is recklessness. Like, it
Yeah.
just feels very reckless.
Yep.
And that not only you've been reckless with your life, like you brought on this guy on, to your point, to your podcast and handed him the election, essentially. I think Rogan and Schultz together, I mean, they basically gave him a hand job on air. It was just, you know, I found it extremely disturbing, actually,
Yeah.
to watch. So not only are you reckless with your platform and sort of your life, but you're reckless with our world. Like, we live together, you know, and I think that's the part that feels sometimes unforgivable, you know, and it's hard to come from a place of empathy and understanding and grace when you're bleeding, you know, you're yeah, you're injured, and I feel injured, you know,
I agree.
like
I do too.
all the time.
I put Jimmy Fallon in that same category. Whether Jimmy Fallon brought
Yeah.
Trump on and like ruffled his hair
The
and just sort
hair.
of
Yeah.
his right fascists on, and it's so inauthentic and insincere. It's
hmm
frustrating. We do have some questions in the
Yeah. The comments are
comments.
popping.
Leilani asked a thoughtful question, which I want to answer. Actually, I want you to answer first. And she goes, I'm trying to find it again. She goes, "How do you recharge?"
Ooh.
Recharge. Leilani asked that question. That's a good question.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Like, before we hopped on live, I was kind of in a grumpy mood, and I've noticed that I just feel better when I'm with you. Like, when I'm like with
Agreed.
you, Kasim, but also all of you. I just weirdly, like, this does help. I mean, it's demanding in terms of like I can't be in bed in my sweatpants. And I have to sort of make sense, but I feel recharged when I'm with other people, and even if we talk about politics, because I feel validated and I feel not alone, and I feel like we're being productive, and we're doing something, and I'm learning from you. I'm learning from all of you. And yeah, to me, honestly, that helps me recharge a lot. And I I don't know, I'm trying to do more things in the real world. Like,
What?
I went to I went to the Backstreet Boys concert a couple of
Ooh,
weeks ago,
there we go.
and it kind of changed my entire brain chemistry, and I'm a different person now, because I felt really connected to people I'd never met before, and to the Backstreet Boys. I think enjoying sort of public event, yeah, just being with others. Like, I went to a pool party yesterday. I went to a book party. Like, it's just nice to be with people. I think we're, to come back to the eye contact campaign. I'm like, are we turning in? We're sort of becoming this very asocial species, and I think it's so clear to me that that's bad, because if I'm alone for a couple too many hours in a row, I start not feeling great. And then even if I'm not even seeing you, all of you, and we're not even we sort of in each other's true presence, I do feel that presence, and I feel immediately better. How about you? How do you recharge? Except
No,
from running like a marathon every freaking weekend.
look, it's my first one in years. No, no, I'm gonna get to that in a second, but I wanted to first echo your sentiments. It's always wonderful to converse with just thoughtful, compassionate people. It's
Yeah.
a good experience. It's good to
Yeah.
be around such people who have just empathy for the world, right? I mean,
Yeah.
just something as simple as empathy. It's difficult to find nowadays, and it's always good to connect with folks who have that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
get it. It doesn't need to be explained. Um, Backstreet Boys sounds pretty awesome.
It was
I'm not
amazing.
gonna
It was
lie, it brings
amazing.
back my high school experience. Um, I I recharge family, like, my wife and kids are amazing.
Yeah.
We went to the beach yesterday and had
Wow.
a picnic at the beach. And I've got this adorable 2-year-old niece who's just fierce and just wants everything whenever she wants it. And she's like that perfect, like, roundness and pudge that you can, like, sink your fingers into her, like, belly, and her legs are like turkey legs. They're delicious. And
Oh, cute.
she's amazing. And she's fierce, and I love it. And then, like I don't like being alone in terms of just being in like an alone empty house. So I feel exactly what you're saying there. I also do like being alone when I'm going on one of my runs. Like I did, as I bragged to you earlier today, I did a 12-mile run earlier today. And I Tim is asking if I've run the Boston Marathon. Tim, I qualified for Boston twice in my early 20s, and I was like, I'll do it another year. And now I'm in my early 40s. I'm like, dang it, I never got around.
Yo,
And
how do you
so,
qualify? How do
so
you?
So Boston is it's one of the few races you have to qualify for.
Oh,
You have to
wow.
run a qualifying time in a previous marathon. And so you have to run a marathon to qualify, and then you get to run the Boston Marathon. So it's a pretty big
Okay.
deal. And I think for my age group now, the qualifying time is like 3 hours and 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes. I've got the Chicago Half Marathon coming up. um, I'm all shaky here. Sorry. I got Chicago Half Marathon coming up on September 28th, so I'm excited about that. I actually started an Instagram account called Custom Runs, specifically to track my running, because
Way.
yeah, I've never had a non-political human rights social media platform, and it's like my first one, so I'm excited about it. I've got like 212 followers. I'm so excited.
Woohoo! Go follow. I'm
Yeah,
gonna follow. It makes me feel very unaccomplished, but it makes me feel like I could maybe one day do what you do.
you can. I mean, and you're in shape. It's not like, I mean, you take care of yourself, right? Like you're in shape. So, but you definitely could. I like you've got the bill for a half-mile sprinter. Like you'd be an amazing half miler. That's just my
Okay.
brain talking. But but yeah, I love running. It's free, it's clear, and people are like, well, why do you run? And there's only one reason I've ever found to be a valid reason, and it's because I can. That's the
Mm,
case. Like, there are
mm,
so many people who can't. There's a time will come where I will physically be unable to, and I've been gifted this ability to do it. And so I love
mm.
it. It's clearing. It's refreshing. It just feels good for me. So I get the
Yeah.
the endorphins. So that's how I. Oh, and pickleball. That's how I.
Ooh. It's important. Even I feel like questions like these are important because it's a mindset shift to what's going well, and I think that's a big thing for me, especially I would say in the last year as a total news junkie, as a total, I it must be FOMO. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I need to know what's going on. And I've changed sort of the way I consume news now. And
Yeah.
I don't, I find that being very intentional about the first 5 minutes of my day and the first last 5 minutes of my day is really important. Where I do this thing where I'm like, I'll try and think of 3 reasons why I'm really lucky,
Yeah.
or like 3 things in my life. And it makes me happy. I'll be like, oh, right, this thing happened, or, this thing is happening. And it will shift my mindset into and it's not toxic positivity. It's just that I'm focusing on what's going well. And I think overall, I feel like that needs to also happen on the political level, which is extremely difficult because it feels weird to be focusing on what's going well when there's so much going amok, running amok. But I think that would also probably be helpful on the left, because again, to come back to the point of how do we make a movement that's appealing, and that's how do you um become appealing to people who don't necessarily agree with you, because you don't want them to feel like, well, if I go if and I join them, I'm gonna get I told you so. You
Yeah.
know, no one wants to go there. And so I think one of the ways that we make yeah, democracy and human rights just an obvious choice is by making it a little fun, you know, because it is fun.
Yeah. Maybe
Empathy
we
is
need more
fun,
scavenger
guys.
hunts. Maybe we need more scavenger hunts. Like,
Yes. More scavenger hunts, more roller coasters,
that's
more
it.
like just having fun. You know, even though the world is really like on fire,
It is.
you can dance through it.
You
There,
can.
that's people kept dancing. You know, even on the Titanic. So
Yeah, you
or
can.
singing
Well,
or whatever it was.
I mean, I want to give you your flowers. Like starting the day with the positivity aspect of it. There's so many studies that talk about
Yeah,
the the power of positivity, and it sounds so dorky and like clanky, but honestly, it's such an important way to start your day and just be like, hey, I'm a badass because of these three reasons, and I'm lucky
yeah,
because of these three reasons, and I'm gonna
yeah,
keep fighting out of
yeah.
it.
And it forces you to think about what's going right, you know, because negativity bias, it's just how our brains are built. It's not your fault, you know, but and because there's so much bad in the world, it's very there's a plethora of sort of options about what to feel bad about. But it's sort of just forcing your brain. I mean, it's gratitude, you know, it's that's what it is. There's is so much to be grateful for. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your newsletter. Everyone should subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and become a paying subscriber, because it helps Kasim do the incredible, just invaluable work that you're doing. And I'm grateful for your community. I think these are my favorite lives.
These
I
are
have to
great.
say, don't tell anyone,
No,
but you have
I'm
the
telling you.
coolest peeps.
You're too kind. And by the way, I already put your subscription link in the chat for everyone to subscribe to.
Oh my
So,
God.
so I'm already
How
ahead
do
here.
okay, you're so much better at technology than me. So for our next live, I'm going to figure out, because I can't find it. Also, I'm not wearing my glasses.
You
So
should get
I'm like,
LASIK.
can't really see.
Why haven't you gotten LASIK yet? I got LASIK when I turned 40, and it was the best decision I ever made in my entire life.
They told me I was too old and young to do it. Like, it didn't make sense. They were like, you're too young because it's going to get worse. And then like, and like, you're too old. You're going to start being farsighted, or like, you know, not be able to see close. And so
Right?
they were
But in the
like, it's too
meantime,
late.
enjoy. Like that's gonna happen eventually to
Yeah.
all of us. But in the meantime, enjoy. Like I can't tell you how much I love not
Yeah.
having to travel with contact lens solution
It's,
and the
yeah.
stupid 3 ounce rule and the little things and the
Oh my
it's
God,
just
it's a nightmare.
yeah. Yeah. I
Ah,
mean like you like there's something to be said about like just looking stylish and cool glasses, which you do a lot, which is great. But like I can't
no,
stand glasses. And
I
I
would
got
take,
3 years ago I got LASIK done. Best decision of my life. I loved it.
okay,
It was amazing.
well, maybe I'll consider that.
And don't
Um,
laugh, but my sister got me a Groupon for it, and so it ended up being like $1,500, and it was great.
it's cheaper. Okay, Groupon. I have so much respect for that. It's crazy. Like, this is why we get along, you know? This is why we figured it out. It means everything. It means everything. Like, it means nothing and everything all at once.
I'm
You're like,
telling you.
yeah, we're the same person.
I'm telling you.
You're my
It is
people.
fun. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. I got it done. What's your plan for this week as we close out? What's your plan? What mountain are you gonna conquer this week?
What am I gonna conquer? Well, okay, announcement. I don't. I guess let's do it. I haven't told anybody. I sold my second book. I probably shouldn't say it. Don't post post it, but like, please don't. I
I will
probably
do it.
shouldn't have announced it this way. But so I've been working on my second book, and you know, now I have to really write it, and so I'm deep in it, and in writing mode, which is fun. And I'm doing my new podcast, Boy Problems. So I'm shooting it sort of myself. So it's a very it's been a challenging journey to learn how all of these you know, to basically be manning 3 cameras, which is crazy. But it's been a big learning curve for me in a really positive way. So
That's
that's
amazing.
what I'm doing. What about you?
I wish I had something that exciting. I don't. I
I'm
will
sorry,
be.
I shouldn't have said it. Bleep it. Don't tell 610 people, please, and 611 people, please keep this to yourself.
That's the
Don't tell
secret.
my editor I just told you.
Your editor agent will freak out. No, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. It is. I I've sold one children's book in my entire life, and it was
It's so
impossible.
hard.
It's so hard.
It's no, and just so you know, it isn't like I sold my book. I've been working on this book proposal for 4 years. Okay. I started writing it in the pandemic. Okay.
Yep.
So this wasn't, it's like, it's really hard. And, as you know, wait, I need to read your children's book. What is it called?
It's Hannah and the Ramadan Gift. I have it somewhere back here.
Oh,
But yeah, it's a children's book that I wrote for my daughter. Uh,
sweet.
yeah.
You're such a good guy. I can't take it. I can't take it. Groupons for LASIK, children's books for your daughter, runs a 12-mile on a Sunday. Like, I can't. You're putting us all to shame.
No, but what am I going to do this week? I will be monitoring the fascism army
That's all.
coming to the U.S. To Chicago, sorry, and hopefully stopping them as best as I can.
I mean, I'm glad you're there. They know not to mess,
Exactly.
because, yeah. Well, keep us posted. I'll be looking forward to all of your dispatches from it, and just hoping and praying for everybody this
Amen to
week.
that. And if you haven't already subscribed, anyone who follows me and subscribes to me, do me a favor, subscribe to Liz. If you can't be a paid subscriber, at least be a free subscriber, and then also be a paid subscriber because this stuff is important. And
Thank
I'll
you.
close with this plug, and this is not like me being like nice to a friend. Like I genuinely mean this because I respect the hell out of you. Like with corporate media becoming state media, with Trump gutting public television and Sesame Street and all this stuff, like we need voices of sanity who are going to be unapologetic and like authentic. Liz is one of them. Highly recommend to maintain your sanity and to ensure you're getting accurate information on these issues that we all care about. And with the side of Love Island, she's the person that you want to subscribe to. I'll stop there. I go right on top. I'll stop there.
That's great. I don't need an agent. I have you. This is great. I appreciate it, and I feel the exact same way. I feel so lucky to know you. I've been a fan for such a long time, and yeah, things are rough. And thank you to all of you for being subscribers to our newsletters. You are. I mean, speaking of what can I do, that is incredibly just meaningful and a really important point, or a really important role in history. Like the people who are funding the media that is still exists and that's telling the truth, we would not be able to do it without you. Like we truly, like, I would be working at Microsoft. Like I would have like healthcare, but I would be able to do this. And it's really because of all of you. And so feel good about that.
Yep. Amen to that.
Yeah.
It's always a privilege and a pleasure. Let's do this
Same.
again soon and
Yes.
keep crushing it. Okay.
Thank you. Stay safe out there. Bye.